Hey guys, welcome back to more AFK Arena. In today's video, we're going to be looking at an Abyssal Expedition guide by Arty over on Reddit. I'll leave it linked in the description. Massive shout out to Arty for putting this together. This is better than anything I've tried to put together in the past of a basic beginner's guide to the overall way the Abyssal Expedition works. So this video I'm hoping will stand the test of time, and if we're in a future Abyssal Expedition that is no longer the Overlord Expedition, you can still watch this video as a newer player and still understand the basics of how it works. As we get new Abyssal Expeditions, we will obviously cover specific stuff in different videos. Now, for experienced players, people who've played Abyssal before and understand the basics, I'll leave a timestamp in the description where you can go down and check out a couple little things to note from this guide that are relating to this specific Abyssal Expedition. I think that gets all the disclaimers out of the way, so let's get into it. Okay, so what we're going to do in this one, we will do some screen hopping. I'm going to go through his guide and swap over to sort of demonstrate things over on my test server with the Abyssal going on at the moment. So first things first, just a basic introduction. You got to complete chapter 15 to get into it, and if the event has already started, when you get clear chapter 15, you won't be able to get in. You've got to reach there before the enrollment phase is over. And when you go to enroll, there's casual and honorable. Casual, basically there's no cost, you just go in, play with a casual group of players. Most players who are organized are going to go for honorable enrollment, which does cost 3,000 diamonds, but for the second highest title you will get 3,000 diamonds back, and for the highest title you will get another 3,000, so you can end up profiting 3,000. We'll go through titles a bit later. But basically his requirements for doing honorable enrollment: do you have 10 legendary heroes? Do you trust your guild to be active and communicate? Do you have at least an hour a day to spend on the event? An hour a day, some days you might get away with less, but you know, it is very time consuming, the event. Communicating in your guild is definitely a very important part for trying to get to the max title. However, you might get to the one before it without. I know my test server, we don't really communicate that well, but you do have to remember, like, communicating in Discord is really nice, but there is the in-game chat, so most groups are going to communicate in that. And the 10 legendary heroes, now I'm going to jump over to my game to show you why that is. As you get settlements, you've got the common ones, which are these ones, and then you've got tier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As you go along, for this title here, I believe it is to get up to Duke, which is the second highest title. You can see the rewards we're going to get there. That's when I talked about the honorable rewards. That Duke is where I'm going to get my 3,000 back. And then as we go up to Prince, the final title, I will get 3,000 more. But in these quests here that you have to do to advance to the next title, there is one in here that says that I've already completed, that I have to settle heroes at 10 tier 5 settlements. And as you can see, this is a tier 5. When I go cultivate, you can put your heroes here to sort of basically get you extra rewards. Now with this tier 5 settlements, you can only do legendary heroes, so that's why you need 10 legendaries, because to do this mission and get your first 3,000 diamonds back, you need to have 10 of them settled at tier 5s, and legendary is the minimum requirement for that. Lower tier settlements, you will be able to put elites in, so that is the reasoning for that. Next up, we have martial ratings. All of your heroes, I'm just going to say this the best way I can explain it in my own words. Basically, if you go to your resonating crystal, whatever the lowest level hero in your crystal is, you divide that by 10. You then take 240, add that number that you just divided onto 240, and that's going to be the levels of your heroes in the Abyssal Expedition. On top of that, the gear for your heroes in Abyssal will be tier 1 mythic. Now, if you do have mythic faction gear equipped to your heroes outside of the Abyssal, meaning in your actual hero box, they will get those stat bonuses and of having faction gear. Elder tree, furniture, and signature items all apply. However, artifacts do not, so you don't have to stress about your artifacts. So it might be a nice thing to go in and sort out your gear on your heroes beforehand and put just the faction gear on them to get those bonuses. But when we look at the actual martial rating, I'll just go over to my account to show you. If we jump out of here and we go over to my resonating crystal, as you can see, the lowest level on my resonating crystal is a level 200 with that Leica there. So then if I go over to my Abyssal Expedition, jump over here, finally, yep. And then we go heroes. So you've got 200 being my lowest level, divide that by 10 will give us 20, which means I get 240 plus 20, which gives me level 260. Now, something I could have done and you guys can do to get a tiny little bit extra out of it, being 2 more levels, is I could have reset one of my level 240 heroes, being the Brutus or Chimera, made my Leica up to 200. Well, I can't actually do this because you need to be ascended to do it. But for people in this weird position, you might be able to, instead of having 2 240s and some 200s, you might be able to put everyone up to 220 and then have 1 240. That will give you 2 extra levels. But for me, the 2 extra levels just wasn't really worth it, so I left it as is. Okay, number 4, we have settlements. He basically talks about the pathing and the joining of tiles. So once again, we'll just jump over to mine and show you how this is actually working. So if we click on the map, so tiles, you have basic tiles, which are like these ones. Keep in mind that we do have borders here. As you can see down the map, it's actually pretty hard to see. We do have borders where the bosses lie. I'll show you further on his map. Actually, let's go there now quickly so we can show you on his map what we're looking at. We'll just scroll down quickly over this one. So we have borders here. You can see the black line that I'm pathing along now. And then we also have another one here. So when there's bosses gating the path, so it's this section, and then this section here, and then the internal section. Now, as you go further, the common tiles in these areas get harder and reward you with more essence. That is the key thing that I want to take away from that. But then we also have, on top of that, we've got different like common areas. Those are the ones I'm talking about. So those, as you go through barriers, will end up giving you more essence. As you can see, this one is going to be 160, whereas if I map over to here to the beginning area and I look at how much this one's going to give, you can see in the center there, it's going to give 30 essence per hour. So keep in mind that common tiles, as you progress further, will actually give you more. Then we have tiers of settlements. Now, these don't change how much they give depending on where they are. Basically, a tier 5 settlement out here is going to give you 200 per hour, and a tier 5 settlement in the next section is also going to give you 200 per hour. These stay the same difficulty no matter which section they are. It's only the common tiles that change. Now, as you can see, you've got things like tier 3 over here, and then you go tier 4, tier 5, tier 6, yada yada yada. They get harder as you get into tier 6 and tier 7 settlements. If I can find one for an example, here we go here, you can see that it has this indicator up the top. Now, if we click on that, we can see that all non-Graveborn heroes lose 50% health and are stunned for 5 seconds when attacking at the beginning of the battle, and have their attack ratings reduced by 30%. So for these ones, obviously this one, you're going to want to use a lot of Graveborn. However, the fact that we do have 2 enemies to fight in this one makes it a lot harder. So that's going to require some cooperation. That's for tier 6, 7, and 8 settlements. It's going to have this. However, some of them do not have it. So keep an eye out for settlements like that don't actually have a requirement. I think I've got one over here that I captured, as you can see. So this is my one here. And if we go cultivate, I can't actually see it on the battle, but you can actually, unfortunately I can't see it, but there are some which I did capture, these 2 that do not have the requirement of a faction, which is really nice. Now, for the rest of the thing about the tiles, when you look at your map, blue tiles, the blue dots are basically dots that your allies have captured, white dots are dots that you've captured, and then green dots are dots that your allies have captured, but you are linked to at some point with one of your tiles, which means you can use it for your progression. So as you can see over here, if we just jump over here, due to the fact that my tile here, it's hard to see the difference a little bit here, but that's my tile that I have captured. Because it's linked to these tiles and they're all linked together, I can actually progress anywhere along here, and I could attack this tile if I wanted, if I had extra attacks to give. So that is the way it all works. It's all a linking system. But say if my tile got de-linked from the rest of my allies, then I wouldn't be able to progress until I linked back up. That is the basic way pathing works. That was a long way to explain it, but hopefully for beginners it made sense. Next up, Blessed Essence and Relics. Basically, like I spoke about, I talked about how much essence a tile gives. So when we jump over here and have a look again, the essence, you can see up the top of your screen how much you have. You're going to use that essence to go ahead and upgrade relics. Relics level up once you get 6 relics of the one tree. You can then level it up to the next one and get more. They get more expensive the higher that you do get. In general, you want to start focusing on one tree, and then later on you can branch out, but we'll speak more about that later. But basically, the higher rarity or the higher difficulty the encampments that you do have, the more essence you're going to get and the faster you're going to be able to power up your heroes. Next up, we're going to look at the titles. He goes through all the titles and basically all the requirements for them. And as you can see down here, it's hard to see, but the Duke one, basically down around here, it says that garrison a hero at 10 5-tier settlements or higher. So that's the one that we talk about why you need the legendary. That is going to be the requirement that you need to actually get to Duke. So that's basically the one that I wanted to highlight there. The rest of it's all pretty basic stuff, just go as you go. The other one that comes in is going to be like something up here, this level here, task 2s, that say occupy like 20 tier 5 settlements, or this one occupy 26 tier settlements. What you can do for these ones is find an easy tier 6. This is what a lot of people do when they're going for prints. Find an easy tier 6 settlement to capture, and then you can actually capture it, abandon it, capture it, abandon it, capture it, so on and so forth, and that will get you there. However, it doesn't work for the garrisoning, if that's a word, of heroes. So for these ones that say occupy, you can actually redo the same settlement. Next up, we do have food. Food's basically your stamina. You want to win the battle with 3 stars to save the most stamina you can, and then also when you go through battles, you want to use the fewest heroes that you can to actually complete stages, so that you are saving your stamina for the boss fights. Moving on from that, strategy. So basically, I'm going to paraphrase what he says here. The two main trees in this one is going to be Celerity and Mage. In previous versions of the Abyssal Expedition, Celerity has been just the straight go-to, so they've tried to mix it up. But for the start of the game, basically you can slot 10 heroes. You want to choose heroes that are basically like your campaign teams, because at the start you haven't invested into many relics. So what you want to do is just choose some really solid starting lineups that you are successful with in campaign. That will get you started early on in the Abyssal. Then once you get their stamina down to like 0 or 5 or something like that, you can actually swap some of those heroes out for heroes that are more in line with what you are doing, what tree you are going down. So a lot of people will go Celerity. So basically he has a little like sort of demonstration of a starting team, what you would go for here, being like your campaign teams, obviously the Iron Sophia team, you got a Stitchy team in God Comp, something like that, and then eventually you can swap out. So this is the other 5 that you do have for the starting 15, but then eventually you can swap some of these guys out, some of your supports and stuff, and the mages for more Celerity heroes if you are going Celerity tree. This one, the next one, the pathing, is basically just he goes through the path that you want to follow. You can see here there's a little mini boss, like the red circles are bosses. Oh no, they're breakpoints, but these 2 are the bosses here, and then you move on to this boss, and then you go on to the final boss, and then the left side is different. Now the right side is going to be easier for newer players, just because it's going to be more friendly to Celerity, which more people are good. The left side is going to be stronger for mages, but don't focus too hard on that. If you've got weak mages and you drop on the left side, you don't have to go mage if you've got really bad mages, is basically what I'm trying to say there. Moving on from that, relic building, this gets a bit in depth, but basically you want to focus on one main relic style. For most people, like I said, it's going to be Celerity. As you can see over here on mine, we'll put it on this screen because it's a bit clearer. We can go ahead and actually see that I've been working completely on the Celerity tree. There will be missions to get titles where you got to get them all to level 3 and then all to level 4 as well. So you will have some effective use out of the other trees as well. But eventually you may want to incorporate something like a sustenance tree, or also a might tree or fortitude tree, so you can eventually spread out, but for the basic start you want to go for these ones. And then once you get a couple of these mythic relics, you can swap over and try to do another faction. I normally go for the 4 mythics first. I'm a very basic player. I don't try and get too advanced because you do need 4 mythics for one of the achievements to get to Duke. So I normally do that, sorry, to Prince. So I normally do that first and then work on my secondary trees, which is normally for me going to be sustenance. However, this one I may look at might over on my main account. So that's just a basic overview of the whatchamacallit, the relic building. It's very complex. Feel free to read through it. I just, you know, it's wordy and I suck at reading, so I didn't want to go too ham on that. Next up, we do have the rewards. As you can see, credits to White Sushi. White Sushi, another guy on Reddit. Check him out. Fantastic. Those are all the rewards that you can get and which ones you should choose. Being the dust, then the Poe coins, then the red emblems. Those are from the chests that you will get. Next up, 14 basic tips. These are always a good little bit for new players. Always keep communication with your militia, as you cannot solo the event. That would be very hard. I've been in some groups where there's some dudes that just go ham and try to. Use the settle feature on the blank tile when connected to a boss for 5% damage boost. So when he talks about that, we'll jump over here, have a look at here. So basically, if I haven't actually attacked this boss yet because I just woke up, but if I attack this tile here, which is a common one, I can actually, over the left, will have settle. It'll put my camp there, kind of like this guy has here. You can see his little camp. If your camp is on a tile that is connected to the boss, so like I could do it over here if I wanted to attack this one. If your encampment is settled there, you get extra damage to the boss that it's linked to. So just a nice little one to get some bonus damage. Next up, we have enemies to avoid: Orthros, Flora, Odin, Thorin, Olmus, Namora, Lucius, Irons. There's a lot of units that are really hard in this. I personally really hate Orthros, Flora, and Odin, and Thorin. I would also throw Brutus into that mix. Brutus is annoying in that his invincibility can stall you long enough that you miss out on the time requirement for the 3 stars. So that's another one as well that I find really annoying. When you're adding new heroes, make sure to unslot the main team and reslot them. So what this says is, when you unlock new slots, the main heroes that you use all the time, your strongest heroes, if you drive them down to like 0 to 5 stamina, you can then remove them and put them in the new hero slots, and they'll get 60 stamina. And then the sort of worst next tier heroes you're going to add, you can add them into the previous slots and they'll start at 0. So once you remove a hero from a slot, and I'll show you how to do that actually. So if we go over here and we jump into heroes, we can click on a hero and you can hit confirm here, and that'll basically release that hero and they come out of it. However, the next hero that I put into this slot will start with 0 stamina, not the 215. So don't just go do that willy-nilly. But once I unlock a new slot over here, if I had my heroes down to like 5 stamina, I could remove them, put them in these new slots, because new slots give you 60 stamina, and then in these slots that are going to be reset to 0, I put my next wave of heroes in. That's, hopefully that made sense. Probably didn't, but you get the gist. All right, next up, try to avoid using 4 times or sometimes even 2 times. You don't want to wipe the fights. This is definitely a great tip. 4 times isn't too bad when you go, okay, this is my 1 or 2 units that can clear the common stages really quickly. You can brush through them. But when you're trying new stages that look a little bit difficult, do it on 0 time speed, or 1 time speed, sorry, and watch it, because you do not want to wipe. It's more important to pause and retry or exit than to wipe, because you only lose a bit of stamina for retrying, but you lose all that stamina if you fail. So that is it. Miscellaneous, this he just talks about on his Reddit post. You can go ahead and check out all the stuff that he's posted in the comments of the Reddit post for any additional information and stuff like that. So be sure to check out his Reddit post if you want to get some more info. So that was a way longer video than I thought it was going to be, but for the people, I said at the start, just come to the end of the video for the basic recap on this current Abyssal expedition. So for the recap, for those guys who just came to have a look at this Abyssal expedition, and we'll probably do more videos on this going more in depth. But here is the pathing map. Obviously that's your general pathing. The other one that I wanted to touch on is that when we look at the bosses, now since the last one, the bosses did get a bit of a change, and that is that Irons received a 20% health increase and Albedo received a 20% health decrease. In this, you don't want to kill one of the bosses without having the other one pretty much dead, because they do get an enrage buff, and as he says, they become 3 times harder to kill. So that's going to require a balanced team on your part, or your guild communicating and have a balanced guild strategy to go ahead and kill them evenly between mages, celerities, and might heroes. So keep that one in mind. Don't just go ham attacking and screw your guild up because you kill one of the two and the other one's still alive and gets enraged. So do that one. And the other thing is it's basically, he mentions here, is when you deploy, obviously try and coordinate with your guild as much as possible. Celerity and might are going to do better on the right hand side. Mage is going to do better on the left hand side. But if you do not have any good mages, but you're stacked on celerity or something like that, and you have to drop in the left, still just go celerity. It's not worth gimping your progress when you have trash mages. By the same rate, if you have godly mages and you end up on the right, but if you have godly mages, please just go to the left and give everyone else a shot on the right. But that won't happen for many people. So don't feel like you have to go mage if you go left, because you could end up sort of kneecapping yourself as well. We'll go through boss strategy. I have seen some crazy boss strategy using Damon and the tank tree with Grazul. So we'll go through that in a future video. It's more of an in-depth strat for the real fast progressors and stuff like that. But that is pretty much all I wanted to cover in this video, guys. Really long one. I do apologize. Hopefully it helped out those people that needed it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing the next one. Cheers.